Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Ashley Vandenmyracker. I am a specialist with Duval School's Family Engagement Department. And I know this week is busy with everybody trying to get ready for back to school. So I'm going to jump right into the presentation after I say two quick things. And that is one, this course is being recorded. The content of it is being recorded. You are not being recorded. The chat will not be recorded or made public. It's just the content of the course is being recorded. And that is for any of those that wanted to attend that were unable to join us tonight. And also, so if there is something that you want to go back and watch later, you can watch that as well or share it with a friend or family member. And then the second thing is that if you have questions throughout the presentation, if you don't mind just putting them in the chat, type them in there. We're a small group, so at the end, I can give everyone access to their microphone if that's easier. I know sometimes it's just easier to say it than try and type it. But if you have something during the presentation, just type it in the chat and I'll do my best to keep an eye on it. And if I see something, answer it as it comes up. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the presentation and share my screen. My face is going to go away, but I promise I am still here. Okay, 1 second. Okay, and I believe it looks like it is sharing correctly. So this is growing up, making a successful transition to middle school. If you are a first time parent, or maybe it's been a while since you had a student that was going into middle school, it can be a little daunting. Um, a little bit about me is I was an elementary teacher. I taught everything kindergarten through fifth. I taught gifted, I taught regular education, I taught ESC, and I taught in middle school for a couple years. I have two students that are in Duval schools. One actually just finished middle school. He will be a freshman this year. And my youngest, who is currently in seventh grade. So last year was quite an interesting year with both of them in middle school, but we got through it. It is possible. And we are hopefully smooth sailing from here on out. I'm going to go ahead and get into it. Let's see if it'll cooperate. There we go. I think, and this is a lot of the things that I am going to share with you tonight are things that are helpful, not just for a smooth and successful time in middle school, but things that will help them in high school and college or whatever their postgraduate future looks like. And I think one of the ways that we can really ensure that our children are successful is to let them learn how to be their own advocate, which I know might not be a natural feeling for us as parents, but even for our children, it can be challenging, but we have to let them figure out how to do that. So, giving them the opportunity to really advocate for themselves helps them develop confidence. It helps them develop their independence and those problem solving skills that will benefit them throughout the rest of their life. I know more than once throughout middle school, I found myself trying to take over or take control when I've asked a question about an assignment or a test or a class. And the answer that I got was, I don't know. That's frustrating, especially when we're used to so much communication coming from the teacher directly to the parents in elementary school. That form of communication really does change in middle school. And it changes because the teachers start communicating more with the student and putting that responsibility on the student. So it's frustrating when you get, I don't know, as an answer. I know I had to make a very conscious effort to continue to put that responsibility back on my kids. And that doesn't mean that we leave them on their own to sink or swim or that we just accept that I don't know as an answer and then hope for the best. Um, it's almost like we're backing away in slow motion. It's sort of like learning to ride a bike. You don't take the training wheels off until they're ready. So throughout middle school, we are their training wheels, so to speak. So how do we let them learn how to be their own advocate and how do we let them actually do this? I think one of the best places to start is with focus. Every student has access to their grades, their assignments, a digital planner through their Focus account, through their student account. Many of these things you can see through your linked parent account. When you log into Focus as a parent, you can see most of those same things. Excuse me. So I would encourage your child to check their Focus regularly. Establish a routine of checking it for assignments that have been graded, but also missing assignments. Double check everything. If their teacher asks them to upload an assignment to Focus, double check behind them that they did that, but put the responsibility on them first and have them double check. And so then you really become a triple check. Um, we set up a routine in our house that basically, if it was me or their dad or my mom who helps us out sometimes, whichever the adult was home with them at the time, log into Focus. Let's look at your grades. Let's look at your assignments. What's going on? And then we did the same thing with Teams, but establish a routine. For us, it was every day, particularly with middle school being on an A day and a B day schedule. Things change very quickly. You have 8 teachers. Some teachers are really good about updating Focus every day with grades, or every day they see your child with grades. And so for us to stay on top of it, it was just one of the first things we did as soon as my kids got home. Um, and same for Teams. So we would look at Focus and then we would go over to Teams. Teams is where all the teachers, and we have been at 2 different middle schools, but every teacher has used Teams as their housing unit for where they posted assignment directions, due dates. Multiple teachers would upload notes to the Teams. I think every single core teacher that my children have had, so their math, reading, science, and social studies, whatever their history was, every single one of those teachers has uploaded PowerPoint presentations, links for extra practice. Then we had 2 different math teachers that actually took videos of themselves taking notes while in class. And so that was very helpful because by the time my son got to algebra, it's been many, many, many years, well over 20 years since I took algebra. So that was helpful for me. So Teams is an incredibly helpful place. As a parent, you do not have your own login to Teams. But what I do recommend is that you download the Teams app. It's free. And then you log into Teams as your child. You can toggle back and forth. So if you have multiple kids, you just go up to the icon with their picture and then toggle to the next one that you want to see. And again, just make it part of the routine. Students also have access to an email account through the district. Their email address is a lowercase s followed by their student number and then at students.duvalschools.org. If your child is not familiar with Outlook as their email, or if they haven't been using it very much in elementary school, which most elementary students don't typically have a need for, I recommend maybe this weekend have them log in to OneView, and then under their My Apps tab is an Outlook, and it will pull it up. And just have them get used to seeing the email, what it looks like. Show them how to create an email, show them how to find their teacher. They can look them up if they click on the To box. They have access to all the staff directory for the district. So make sure they're selecting the correct teacher. There's a bunch of Smiths and Jones. Talk to them about the proper way to word an email, complete sentences, proper punctuation. Teachers are going to be very receptive to students that are emailing them those questions. One thing that I taught my 2 kids early on when they started emailing teachers, because again, we're not just throwing them into the middle school water and hoping they swim. We're the training wheels. I want to stay in the loop. I want to be engaged. I want to be involved in their education, and I want to know what's happening. So what I taught them how to do was copy me on their emails. Put the teacher in the To address line, but then put my email address on the CC line. And then that lets the teacher know, okay, the parent knows that the student is reaching out. When the teacher emails back, you get the response so you can see what is being said, but it also just keeps you in the loop of the conversation so that if you have to follow up, you're already there. Let's say the teacher doesn't see it or they're out sick, who knows what happens. But if a couple days, 2, 3 days go by and your student hasn't gotten a response, you can always jump in and reply all and just say, hey, I just wanted to circle back around, follow up, make sure you saw this. You know, so and so is trying to do this. We tried XYZ. So you can jump in at that point and support them, but they take the initiative to send that email. It really is a great opportunity for them to practice a very real world skill while also taking ownership of their learning. But again, it lets the teacher know that this is a partnership and we are all involved in ensuring the success of your child. And that goes a long way with teachers. Sometimes, maybe it's easier for your child just to write a note to your teacher and leave it on the desk. That might work depending on the size of your school, depending on the organization of your teacher's desk, honestly. But find a way and a rhythm that works for your student, but also the teacher. And it could be different from one teacher to the next. Encouraging them to develop their own system, right? Middle school means multiple classes with a different teacher for each period. So they have 4 teachers or 4 classes every day. Each teacher is going to have a different set of expectations and requirements for their class. Most of the teachers, including your resource or your elective teachers, will send home a syllabus typically within the first week of school. That syllabus will include everything that they expect, like just almost like a standard operating procedure, if you will. So typically it includes supplies, because supplies are different in middle school. Each teacher might want something different. Some might want a composition book, some a spiral, some a binder. So it usually includes the supply list for that particular class. It also includes how they handle makeup work, how long they have to get the makeup work done, how to turn it in, or what to do if you are missing an assignment, how long you have to turn that in. Some teachers will put a 0 in if an assignment is missing, and some will just leave it blank. I have found that that has almost always been included in the syllabus with those core classes. Resources and electives, that wasn't always on there. And then to help our students manage all these different expectations successfully, it's important to have a system of organization in place. Now, what works for me to be organized does not work for both of my kids. Both of my kids do not have the same organization system. So try out different methods, see which one's the best for your child, and don't be afraid to try something new. If you try it for a week and it's not working and you feel like your child's pulling their hair out or you're pulling your hair out, try and adjust it. Try a totally different one if you have to. Maybe it's one binder that they switch between, they take with them each day, and that's where they put all of their assignments or homework, or even just jot down what they did in class that day. Maybe it's a color coded tab system in that binder. Whatever it looks like, as long as it works for them. And that means as long as they can keep up with it themselves, because we are not at school with them, we're not in the classroom with them. So they have to be able to do it and it just feel natural to them. Students have 4 minutes between classes. Most teachers are teaching right up until the bell to switch classes. So it's got to be something where they can just stick their homework in that binder or a folder or tuck it into the spiral for that class. But they've got to be able to do it quickly and something that they can do the same each time. That way they're not scrambling looking for something when they get home, or they don't know where their homework is or where the test is that you need to sign, things like that. One of my children misplaces things constantly. My oldest son, he has ADHD combined type. One of his biggest struggles is just misplacing things. He'll put it somewhere, he thinks he put it there, but it actually ended up somewhere totally different in a completely random spot, it feels like. So we really had to work to find a system that worked with him. It ended up being a different color folder for each class. And then the folder actually matched the color of the spiral where he took notes or did work. So then each class became a different color. It took us a while to figure that out though, but that's what ended up working for him. Also, same thing with the A-Day, B-Day schedule. We ended up using two different backpacks for him. He had an A-Day backpack, it was one color. He had a B-Day backpack, it was a different color. Going into high school, he's using the same thing with two different backpacks. So that way, on the way out the door, if he's for whatever reason rushing or late, which definitely happens, he just knows to grab the blue backpack for A-Day, black backpack for B-Day, or whatever it happens to be. So if you're in the position to set that up with an A-Day and a B-Day backpack, I highly recommend it. My youngest, my daughter, she started the year that way, and then about halfway through decided she only wanted to use one backpack. I was worried it would be too heavy. It was not. They don't have textbooks that they actually carry back and forth from home to school because all of that is online. So it wasn't too heavy for her, but having two backpacks actually just caused her a little bit more anxiety because she was always worried she'd grab the wrong one or she would forget to put her laptop from A-Day into the B-Day one. Part of staying organized is time management. And this might be a new skill for many of our middle schoolers, but it's also essential for keeping up with their assignments, their tests, and getting to class on time. They have 4 minutes. Depending on the size of your campus, they might have to hustle a little bit to get from one class to the next. If you think your child might not really have the best concept of time, I suggest you set a timer for 3 minutes or 4 minutes. Maybe start with 4 minutes and then 3 minutes, and then just go for a walk and see how far they get. Like if you start at your house, how far can you actually get in those 3 or 4 minutes? Because that's how long they'll have to go to class. Now they're not stopping at their locker, but let them figure out how that feels because it really does go by very quickly. Finding a planner or a calendar is very important. A planner is a great tool to help students stay organized. Again, they might not have the time necessarily in class to write it all down. So sometimes maybe it's just a to-do list. That's one option. As you know, they just jot it down in their spiral what they need to do very quickly, and then they go to the next class and then they jot down what they need to do. I'm going to show you some examples in a minute, but it's whatever works. In elementary school, a lot of the schools either purchased those planners for our students or PTA purchased them, and they were cute and they had big boxes. But what happens as our students get older is those boxes get smaller. The planners typically get smaller. The daily to-do list, I think, is huge, having one at home. Everything like we had a morning to-do list and then we had an afternoon to-do list. That helped us get into our daily routines of, wake up, eat breakfast, brush your teeth. All those things were on there, but the afternoon one looked completely different and they were printed on different colors of paper. My son's first year in middle school, they were on a 7-period day. So they had all their classes in one day. So the classes were very quick, 45 minutes, and it was a lot to manage in one day. So what we ended up doing was coming up with this system for him, which was a plan for the week. And we found in 7th grade, when they switched to the A-Day, B-Day schedule, it actually still helped him. So we just came up with must do. On Monday, what do you have to do? You absolutely must get this done. And then what can you go ahead and get started if you have time, or what do you need to continue working on? And so each day he would get home, he would look through each of his class spirals or folders, and he would fill this out for the week, knowing what was coming. With the A-Day B-Day schedule, he ended up still doing the same thing, filling it out every day when he got home, but then he couldn't necessarily fill out the entire week at one time. And that was okay. But this was one option that worked really well. He was able to keep up with it on his own. And then I would just come behind him And I would look in his folders or spirals, I would look on Teams, and I would look in Focus, and I would just double check. And then if he missed something, I would point it out to him, have him fill it in. Upcoming tests and quizzes, online lessons. There were online lessons for reading, math, even history. There were some online lessons to complete. Not as often as with reading and math, but there were some still. Reading every day, check it off. So that worked for my son who needed every single thing laid out and spelled out for him. Um, in 8th grade, we changed it up a little bit because he had different classes and he got a little bit busier with sports after school. And so then we switched to a shared note in our phone. This is the one that he really said he liked best between the two. And I think that's just because he doesn't like to write. But it's a shared note. So I would be on it. My mom was on it. My husband was on it. Everybody was on it. And he could just quickly take his phone out and just type whatever the assignment was. It wasn't always spelled right. Sometimes we had to decipher and go back and clean it up, but it was easy for him to just pull his phone out and quickly do it and then put his phone away. That way he wasn't in trouble, having the phone out. This was also something that at the beginning of the year, I emailed the teachers and just said, hey, we're going to try this. Do you mind? None of the teachers said it would be a problem. They all were okay with him pulling his phone out at the end of class to do this. And it worked really well, but we set it up so that as he completed it, he just taps the circle and it put a little check mark and it moved to the bottom of his list. So that's something to consider too if your child has a phone or if you think, they've got the maturity to handle pulling it out and then also putting it away without trying to then stay on their phone. A lot of students didn't have to study quite as much in elementary school as what they might find they need to do in middle school. So study skills are huge. Study skills are not natural for us as humans. We have to learn how to study. And so, similarly to being organized, we have to find a way of studying that works. We have to find a way of taking notes that work. The way you study for one class might not work for studying in all of your classes. You might have some classes where you have to study more, like maybe history, you have to study a little bit more, or math, versus reading, where you're not necessarily studying, you're just working on writing or grammar skills or doing an online lesson. I mentioned the note taking. There's many strategies out there, but find one that works for your child. Again, some of the strategies that we have found helpful in our house, but also that I have found and just talking to different middle school teachers through different schools around the district, flashcards. It's so simple and it feels basic. They have been such a huge help for different terms and definitions, particularly in science and math. Even when we got to world history, they were great for some of the different vocabulary that came with that class. So flashcards are great. We put them on a little silver O-ring, and then we could just flip through them, take them in the car if you want to. But it was something that each of my kids can create their own flashcards. I would read them, double check them, make sure everything looked right. And then they could study them on their own. They could quiz each other. It was actually really nice. Mind mapping is a big one, especially for some of those big science concepts that come out. There's so many different systems in science that they're going to be learning about, and each science they take each year will change. But this strategy we started in 6th grade, and my son used it 6th grade, 7th grade, and then in biology for 8th grade. And it's just putting that big concept at the top, and then the things that connect it, you just sort of map it out. It wasn't always pretty. Sometimes it was a hot mess, but he could read it, and that was what mattered. So it was just taking the notes that he did in class and rewriting them into this type of a concept map. One that I love, 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 and I can't say enough about it is the app Quizlet. It is a free app. There is a paid version, but I will say, unless you want to be able to track how long they're spending studying a set of these digital flashcards, you truly don't need it. You can do everything with the free version. It really is basically digital flashcards. So you can type in the term, type in the definition, you can type in a question, and then put the answer in the definition spot. But it's an app, so they can do it in the car, they can do it on the bus. There's different ways that they can study it, so it's not just tapping it and flipping it over. There's a learn process, it will go through all of them, and they swipe left or they swipe right. And then the app will create, basically like a little learning path for them and have them focus primarily on the ones that they did not know. And it will even give them a little test on the terms, and it can have them match terms and definitions. It can have them fill in the blank. So it really is a great tool. They just introduced an AI component. I want to say they call it like their homework helper or something. But if you have a set of flashcards in there on a particular topic, then the AI will already recognize that and ask you if you need help with homework. And so that actually came in handy for a couple of math problems also. But we used this for math, history, and science. Knowing when tests and projects are scheduled is an absolute must. Again, 8 different teachers, they all are going to want something, and they might not all be communicating with each other. So you might have 2 tests on one day. You might have 2 projects going on at the same time. So creating a study calendar, this is just an example, but filling in with when you have after school activities, when you could study, when you have the test, filling it in, and it's almost like just mapping out their week. But that's a good visual way for them to see, I've got free time here, I can read a book, I can play a video game, I can go outside. Or, okay, I have to dedicate this block of time to studying because I've got this test coming up. I mentioned finding a method of taking notes that works. I cannot stress the Cornell Notes method strategy enough. It's hard to study when you get home if the notes that you take in class aren't clear or organized. The way the Cornell method works is that the topic, the main idea, or the question the lecture or the PowerPoint is trying to answer that day, all that goes on the left. And it doesn't have to be written word for word the way it is from the teacher. It's just basically your topic. And then on the right side of the line, they just bullet point the main ideas, key vocabulary, anything that the teacher really harps on or highlights in the presentation. So it's those main notes, main points. It doesn't have to be written as a complete sentence. It's really probably better if they just bullet point them in a few words. Then at the bottom of that section, so once you have all your notes for that one main idea, that one topic, you draw a line, and then they rewrite their notes in their own words as complete sentences. So they can go back, read the main points, but then they have to take that information and synthesize it into a summary that makes sense. So then that's one part of studying it. But then when they get to the test time and they're studying, they can either go back and reread all their bullet points, or they could just read the summary, or they could do both. But this is a strategy that I have seen, I want to say all but 2 of the core teachers we've experienced in our 5 years of middle school so far have used the Cornell Notes method. We had high school orientation, and freshmen at my son's school all take a research class. And one of the reasons they all take this research class is to learn how to take notes. And the method they mentioned was specifically the Cornell Notes style. So it is something that will help them through high school. And even if they go to college after graduation, then it would help them in college as well. But learning how to study is so important, not just to be successful in middle school, but to be successful in high school and then beyond. Encourage the struggle. Okay, I think this is probably the hardest part as a parent. Learning to let them advocate is hard, but letting our children learn to struggle is incredibly difficult because it is so hard for us to watch them struggle when we feel like and we know we could just step in and fix it all. It is okay for your child to struggle. Now, not to the point that they're in danger of failing, but it's okay for them to stumble and fall down or trip a little bit because when they struggle through a task or an assignment or adjusting to middle school or finding how they want to be organized, that's also when we learn. We learn so much from the mistakes and the challenge, and we grow and we become better because of that struggle. Natural consequences, I think, are the best teacher. If your child forgets their homework at home and they call you or they text you or they email you and they say, "Oh my gosh, I forgot my homework. Can you please bring it up?" No, don't do it. I have struggled with it myself. My instinct is to, yes, I could do that. Why not? But no, don't let them do it. If they get a 0 for the missing homework, it's okay. They can turn it in late. Most teachers will accept the homework late, but take points off. It will not take doing that more than a couple times before they really start to remember to grab that homework or make sure it's in the right folder for the right class because they don't want to get that 0. They don't want that feeling. They don't want that panic. Oh my gosh, I forgot it. And so it does happen much quicker than you think. But natural consequences are wonderful teachers. Focus on growth and not just grades. It's so important that we celebrate the growth that our students are making. Grades are important, and education is absolutely a priority in our house. But we have to focus on the growth because that is what helps them develop the confidence and the self esteem when we take that pressure off to feel like they have to have perfect grades. We need to let them know that it's okay if you don't have straight A's. It's okay. Let's focus on the growth. Like if you took a test and you got a D, or even if you got an F, now, I'm not going to necessarily be thrilled by that, but it tells me where we need to start so then we can work on improving. And then as they improve, celebrate each of those little steps. That positive reinforcement just makes them want to continue to do better, really builds up that confidence and self esteem during a time where they are struggling with all the changes, just physically, mentally, everything, the peer pressure that comes with middle school. So if we can focus on the growth and let them know, I believe in you and we're going to get there, no matter where they're starting from, focusing on that growth helps them so much. We don't want our children to be afraid to fail or afraid to come to us if they get a bad grade. And so if we focus on the growth, it's going to make them more comfortable to come to us when they do need help and when they truly do need our support. And that kind of goes with changing the questions that you ask. We have to ask questions to our middle schoolers. I found with my son, he got a little bit quiet in 7th grade. 6th grade, he still felt a little bit like my elementary baby, but growing, and then 7th grade, he got a little quiet. I really had to work to pull more information out of him. And then 8th grade, it kind of rounded out. I saw glimpses of just true maturity and him turning into a young man. And it was really interesting to watch this progression from 6th to 8th grade. But we have to change the questions that we ask them in order to get them or keep them talking to us, right? We can't just ask yes or no questions. It's got to be open ended. But even in terms of supporting them through this struggle, we have to change our questions. So it's not, how can I fix this for you? What do you want me to do? Or I'll just do it for you. It's, how can I help you? Or what support do you need from me? And even getting them to think about it in terms of themselves, it's like at night. What do you need to do tonight so that you are successful in the morning? Or what do you need to do tonight so you can get out of the house tomorrow? What do you need to do today so that tomorrow is a good day at school? Tomorrow is a successful day at school. Is there anything I can do to help you be successful with your project or to help you not finish it, not get it completed, but what can I do to help you progress on this project or whatever it is? So it's just changing the questions to pull that information out of them and to get them thinking about it in a different way where we're just putting it back on our student and reminding them that this is their responsibility and they need to communicate their needs with us. Oh, middle school. It's been, well, over 20 years since I was in high school. So you can go from there and figure out how long it's been since I was in middle school. But I imagine, like me, you probably remember what middle school was like and what going into middle school was like. There was some excitement, but there was also a lot of worry and fear. There's just so many different social concerns for our kids when they're going into middle school because they're no longer the seniors. In fifth grade, they felt big and bad and good, and they were the biggest kids there. And now they're going in and they're the smallest all over again. They might not know anyone at the school, they might know a few people at the school. But all those what if questions are probably going through their head this week as teachers are in pre-planning. And if not this week, probably this weekend, they're going to start having some of those thoughts or worries or anxieties. So talk about all of those what ifs. You know, what if I don't know anyone? What if I can't find anyone to eat lunch with? What if it's hard to make friends? What happens if I'm late? What if I need to use the restroom? What if I have to dress out in the locker room for PE? All those what ifs and try to think about what it was like for you in middle school and even to an extent in high school, because that same anxiety, I think, comes back as we transition into high school. But what were some of those things that you worried about or that you thought about or that you just really didn't know about? Talk to them, make it a completely comfortable and natural conversation, because if you can get them talking about it now and it just becomes normal for them to talk to you about their worries, they will keep talking to you about their worries as those concerns change throughout middle school. Practice having conversation, which sounds maybe a little bit funny, but in elementary school, you're typically in one or two classes, maybe three, but you're with the same people all day, every day. And so you really do become a little family unit, and it almost doesn't become a challenge to have conversation with any of the other students in class at lunch or recess. In middle school, it's different. You're not going to have the same kids in every single class. You might have completely different kids in all eight classes. So just practice starting a conversation, practice joining a conversation without interrupting or feeling like you're just barging your way in. Practice joining in a way that feels natural. Um, and if you find, you know, if you're out somewhere and you run into people, show them how to go say hello and have that conversation or join a conversation that they're already having, because they'll see kids, most likely they will see other kids that they knew from elementary school or a summer camp or church or a sports team or something. There's a good chance that they'll see someone they know at some point, or at least that they recognize enough that that might be who they feel comfortable approaching to have that conversation with. So, encouraging teamwork. We know that teamwork is what makes things successful because we have been through it. But middle school is a different time and stage of life for our children. In the district, the middle school region, each age group, elementary, middle, and high school, has like a title. So the middle school title is called the region of change because they are changing so much mentally, physically, and emotionally. And they really are changing from, these young children in elementary school into young adults that we send into high school. So all this change is happening during these formative years. And it is so important that through these years, we stay connected to our children. As parents, we have to stay connected to them. So that might mean you have to change the conversation. And now it's changing the questions you ask about their day to maybe giving them a prompt like, tell me something funny that happened. Something funny happens almost every day, even if it's not to them. They probably saw something funny that someone else did, or something funny that happened at lunch. So trying to get them to talk about it. One thing that worked for us really well was the high-low strategy, and we would talk about what was the high point of your day today? What was your low point? Why was that your high point? Why was this your low point? And then for the low points, it got really interesting because then it changed to don't just tell me what your low point was and why that was your low point, but well, how could we do something different? Like, how could you react differently in that situation? Or could you have done something different? And sometimes maybe you could, and sometimes maybe you couldn't, but it just opened up another avenue of conversation. Um, be prepared to talk to your child about everything and anything. And I mean everything and anything. Y- Be a safe place for them to ask questions. Middle school can be a whole new world for many students. They're going to see and hear different things that maybe they have not seen or been exposed to before. So they might hear words they haven't heard or just different things that they are not exposed to in elementary. And so be prepared, be ready, be open, be safe for them to come and talk to you and ask you questions. When they ask you questions that might surprise you or shock you, even, I would just encourage you that as much as we want to react sometimes, to just stay calm, and then give them whatever the appropriate answer is for you. But what we don't want is to overreact and then scare them away from asking us those questions because we don't want them to go ask their middle school buddies, right? We want them to ask from us. We want them to learn from their parent rather than another middle school student who also doesn't have the life experience or the knowledge that we have as parents and is most likely also providing inaccurate information. So we want to be their source of information. And in order to do that, we have to be open and calm, but we also have to be honest, age appropriate, but honest. If you allow your child to have social media, please monitor their social media. There can be in school consequences for things that they do online even if they're doing it outside of school hours. So, the new student code of conduct just came out today. I encourage you to find that online and just read through it with your child, but monitor that social media. Um, Make sure that they aren't being bullied, but make sure they also aren't doing or saying anything where they could be perceived as someone who might be bullying or threatening. We don't want any of that. And then I mentioned their bedtime routine. I think for most elementary school students, they have a bedtime routine. That doesn't go away just because they're in middle school now. I know they might think that it should, or they might want it to go away because they feel like they're these, big independent middle schoolers now, but it doesn't go away. It just evolves, it changes. So it might be a little bit later than it was in elementary school. That's okay, but keep a routine in place. Make it the same every night that you are able to make it the same. But know that it does not need to just go away. Middle schoolers still need their rest. They still need just the comfort of that routine. And even though they think or they might think they don't need their parents, we know because we have done this that they really do need us during middle school, during high school. I mean, they just need us, right? But we have to be flexible. We have to go with it. So create that bedtime routine that works for you, for your child, for your family. Maybe it's reading a book, for a few minutes. Maybe it's just sitting in the room and that's when you talk about your day and that's when you talk about the high or the low. Whatever that looks like, find a way to just make that bedtime routine work still. And still with teamwork, it's not just on us and our child and us working together to ensure that our children are successful. It takes working with our child's teachers in the school. Middle school is probably the first time your child's had more than two or three teachers, if we don't include like PE and music from elementary school. And so it is most likely going to be a little bit of an adjustment for them. And it might even be an adjustment for you, but it's important that your child's teachers know that we are all in this together. And our goal, even if it doesn't feel like it sometimes, we're all working toward the same goal. And that is for our child to be successful. One suggestion I have, and this is what I do at the beginning of the year, I send an email. I include my husband on it and I include my student on it. I send it to all of the teachers. I just introduce myself, give a little bit of background about our family, who we are, and I just let them know I am here. So if there is ever a question of anything, or if you ever need anything, reach out to me. And part of that is I want my child's teacher to know that I'm here and I'm involved, but I also want them to know that I am just a human. I might make mistakes. I know that they're human and they might make mistakes, but that we're on the same team and we're all working together. Check the parent portal weekly. If you have a linked parent account, I highly recommend going in and checking focus at least weekly. Again, for us, it was daily just to keep up with all the teachers, however often that is that you find works for your child and your family, but check the portal on a regular basis. Follow up with teachers. This goes back to if your child sends an email and you don't see a response, just reply all and follow back up and say, hey, I'm just circling back around to this because again, you're just letting them know I'm here, I'm in this, I'm engaged, and I want to be part of the solution. If you are able to volunteer, I highly recommend volunteering in middle school. The volunteer opportunities look a little bit different in middle school. And sometimes it feels like maybe there aren't as many opportunities to volunteer, but they do back to school teacher breakfast, they do after school dances, um, volunteer to help out with running concession at a sports game or do the field trip if you're able to. Whatever way you can volunteer, if you're able, volunteer. Get your face in the school. Again, you're letting them know I'm here, I support you, I want the success, not just of my child, but of all the children in the school, which is why I'm here to volunteer and help you. Ask for conferences throughout the year. I think this is really important. In middle school, conferences do look a little bit different. You don't schedule a conference directly with the teacher. You reach out typically to one of the guidance counselors or a secretary in the front office and request your conference through them. Even if you have a concern with one particular class, don't be surprised if the entire team of core teachers attends the conference, which can feel a little bit intimidating as a parent. But I have found at the schools and just talking to other middle school parents, that is how most middle schools do their conferences. And it really is not the way it sounds. You're not walking in and then defending yourself to these four teachers. It's just so that everyone is on the same page. It's not for any reason other than that. It's everybody on the same page. And again, everybody working together. I recommend maybe toward the end of the first quarter or early into the second quarter, try and get a conference scheduled, especially if you're unable to attend open house, just so they can meet you, see your face, put a face to your name and your face and your name to your child's face and name. And it goes back to, again, letting them know we're on the same team. If you can join PTA, I suggest joining PTA. If your school doesn't have an active PTA, maybe reach out to the district PTA and see what it would take to get a PTA going there and get more parents on board so that you are able to be in that school in a different way and supporting the success of all the children in the school. Same thing with SAC meetings or parent nights. Whatever you're able to be involved in, do it. Whatever level that looks like. There is no one size fits all. There's no one right way to do this at any school or even just in middle school. It's just getting yourself out there and letting them know I'm here. I want to help, I want to be supportive. And 9 times out of 10, the teachers in the school will take you up on that offer. There are some apps that I highly, highly recommend you download, and there's a new Duval Schools app coming out. If you already have the Duval Schools app, it looks exactly the same, but it is not the same app. It is a completely brand new app. It will have this logo. It will be available in the Google Store as well as the Apple App Store. Um, from this one app, you will be able to log into your linked parent account. You'll be able to buy tickets to sporting events. You'll be able to see the menu for school, add money to their lunch account. You'll be able to pay for things online, like PE uniforms, school cash. That's how you pay for everything in middle school. Field trips, all of that will go through school cash. That will be in this one app. Rooms is the new two-way messaging system between schools and teachers and our families. You'll be able to access rooms through this app. The only thing that won't be available in the Duval Schools app is Teams. That will remain a separate app. So Duval Schools, that app, the Teams app. You can monitor transportation. If your student rides the bus, there's an app called EduLog. It is not at every school yet. So you will need to ask your middle school if they have students scanning their ID when they get on the bus. If your school has their students scanning their ID when they get on the bus, then you can use EduLog. You can actually track when your student gets on the bus and when they get off the bus. It will track the route of the bus so you can see how close the bus is to your child's bus stop. The goal is for this to be available at every middle school for every bus by the end of the year. So it might just be a slow rollout. You might see information come out at the beginning of the year next week if your school is one of the ones that's doing the pilot, or it might be halfway through the year or toward the end of the year if your school is not one of the pilots. Connect with Parent Academy. We would love to have you at another Parent Academy course. We would love for you to follow us on our social media or visit our website. We have tons of resources available on the website, recordings of older videos. We have academic videos, testing. We also have social emotional videos. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope to see you at another course again soon, and I hope that you will reach out to the Family Engagement Office with any questions or needs that you have throughout the school year or anytime. All right, have a great night, everyone. Bye-bye.